Tell me about what's been illuminating for you as a
Mm.
couples therapist.
We would get couples like who's trying to make the other person see it their way for the past 3 years and with the same method and strategy just over and over again. And then they keep expecting a different result. And I think like that sometimes like it's those moments where we kind of slow down and I ask like the couple to like bring up more and more and more. And sometimes if there's something that shifts like for the other partner, it's like, I never knew about this. You never told me about this. Yeah.
We all have layers of stories.
Wisdom is knowing like who a person truly are, knowing who a person truly are, not what you want them to be, and
Mm.
not what they want you to think who they are.
Welcome to book club. I'm here with my friend Jeanie Lo. Say hi, Jeanie. She is also a licensed therapist now. Congratulations.
Mm, finally.
So today's book, we're reading How to Know a Person by David Brooks.
Mhm.
Yes, thank you for holding it up. Actually, I'm going to record via gallery so people can actually see.
Mhm.
And starting round question. Name one person, past or present, who has made you feel truly seen, and what did they
Mm,
really do?
mm. I thought about this question actually like when I read all the questions and I was like, this is actually the toughest one to say.
Mm.
Um I think like there are definitely moments when I feel really seen with my therapist, and then I was like, I'm trying to think of like moments where I feel really seen when I'm not with my therapist. I think like one that jumped out to me was I think it was like it was so simple. But like for me I was like, oh, like you see me. I think it was with a friend, and we were talking about like how I have just transitioned from being in a relationship to not being in a relationship,
Mm.
and then and uh, and me and this guy we've already like went through like several phases of breakups and getting back together. And this friend is more like an acquaintance, but we talked about it before, and then she remembered like the things that I told her before, of why um I wanted to break up, and the things I told her before was like years, and I forgot. Like, "Wait, you remember this?" And then, like, she just said it as a matter of fact. So, like, for me, like, that moment, like, was one of those moments where I feel, like, quite seen. Like, she
Mhm.
was paying attention. So,
Yeah. I
yeah.
love moments like that when a friend can just remember things off the cuff,
Off the cuff, yes.
but it's like a person that you wouldn't even consider like the deepest friend, but in that moment, you're like
Yeah,
connecting with them in a deep way.
yeah, yeah, yeah. How about you?
Um, I felt like I didn't know it at the time, but growing up, I was
Mm,
really depressed. And
mm,
I had a youth group leader growing up at church named Laura. I've talked about her before on like podcasts
mm,
and stuff, but she actually taught me how to go up to people and like say hi to them and like talk to them. She was 25,
mm,
newly married, and I was
mm,
15, and I was like socially awkward. And she was
mm,
like, Helen, you just have to point out one thing that you like about the person, go up to them, say, hey. And like she would invite me over to her house, like she was, with all of us girls in
mm,
the group. And I
mm,
would call her whenever I would get into a fight with my mom or my dad, or I was just like asking about dating. Like I still to
mhm,
this day text her questions like, hey, what do you do with this? Like, how do you like navigate relationship with someone that you're married to? Blah blah blah. And she'll give me advice.
she's your big sister.
She's like my big sister, but I think what makes me feel truly seen with her is
Mm,
that she was willing to let me struggle through it on my own
mm,
while
mm,
also sitting next to me, which is I don't know
mm,
if you remember in the How to Know a Person book, but there's
mm,
a chapter about his friend Pete who dies by
mm,
suicide, and, like,
mm,
David tries to fix Pete,
mm.
but all he needed to do is, like, really sit next to him. So
Yeah.
Laura reminds me of that.
It takes a lot of restraint and a lot of care, I would say. So, like, I might have the solution, but but for your own good, because your life belongs to you. So I'm gonna have to let you to do the work.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of humility too. I think you mentioned it like one part of the book where it's like it's a lot of humility to say that like I don't fully know this person. I can only have a fraction of of what it's like to be in their shoes and their experiences. So then at the end of the day, whatever they want to do with their life, it is up to them. But we're there to help them discover who they are, which
Mm,
is a lot like what therapists do.
yeah. I did wanna ask you, Jeannie, in just, like, lived experience and as a
Mm.
therapist, how do you, um, use restraint? Because it's something I feel like I have to work on. Like, it's not something that comes naturally to me. Like,
Yeah.
how do you work on it?
I laugh. No, no, because it's not. It doesn't come naturally to me as well.
Yeah.
I think like that was one of the things about the book that appealed to me because I spent my whole life trying to know people. And
Mm,
I think like because when I was younger, I was very socially awkward as well. I was more bookish,
mm,
and so like it was until like maybe 10 that I discovered like there's a world of people, and I was like, oh no, like how do I socialize? I don't know. And usually I would talk to them about books actually, and lo and behold, like when I was 10, the kids were not reading, and so I'm like, what do we talk about? And so I was like, okay, like how do I get to know them? Um, I think maybe I went to it in a more complicated way than it needs to be. Because a lot of them they were just talking about video games or like page six, like on gossip, like a newspaper. So I tried those, but I was like, I don't like this. Like I need to find another way. And so like that's when I started like, trying to discover like how to talk to them and how to get to know them in a deeper way. And then I think like it's through those conversations that I start discovering like some of the things that I say would have impact. And either an impact of like letting them like clam down or
mm,
having letting them an impact of like keep on going. And
mhm,
so that's when a lot of times like it's when I practice the restraint, like I have some thought and then I just fight it back. Like
mm,
bite your tongue. And then that's when I could see that maybe it leads them to open up a little bit more. And so I think like maybe it's that sense of reward of like I have a thought. I'm not gonna say it. I'm gonna bite my tongue and I'm gonna see what happens. And it's seeing like, oh, like this is they are blooming, they're unfolding, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna keep doing it. So it
that's
reinforces that. Yeah, it just reinforces like my like the desire to just like I want to say something and I'm not gonna say it.
yeah. There's a section in the or like the first part of the book where he says, "If
Mm,
you have anything to say, wait 9 seconds
mm,
before you say it, because someone might actually have additional points to add." So it's
I
something
forgot about that one. That's a good one.
yeah, it's something I've been incorporating in my sessions. I'll just, like, not say it,
Right.
and I'll wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one is what you're talking about, like, I have actually been trying that in my sessions as well, because in school we talked a lot about the power of silence,
Mm,
and we're psychodynamically trained, so of course, like, they're gonna be talking about silence, but it's also, like, letting, emotions surface instead of, like, trying to go in and cover it up.
mm,
Um,
I like
and so like on a daily basis, like when I talk, like when I just hold back a little bit, like I'm not saying what's on my mind. Sometimes it already unfold, but in sessions, sometimes it's a little bit more difficult because you get clients who have more anxiety and who might be afraid of the discomfort that comes with silence and the lack of the stress tolerance also like lead them to come to us. And
yeah.
then so it I have I think I have just been forcing myself to be a little bit uncomfortable with silence as well, like thinking that maybe there's more that's gonna emerge afterwards. So like it's like you said, like when you said 9 seconds, it's actually so uncomfortable. 3 or 4 is like the max usually for me. So then this time I was like, okay, so wait, and it's still a struggle bus. It's still a struggle bus, and some clients they are not used to it. But I find that if we're both gonna be willing to tolerate, like, me looking at you, you looking at me,
Mm,
um, it actually gets like, the emotions get to deepen a lot more.
I love
Do you see, like, a similar thing?
yeah, I love what you said, if we just accept what's in the room,
Mm, yeah,
oftentimes the client has enough space to process what they just said. And
yeah.
I've noticed that some of the biggest tensions I experience as a therapist is when I
Mm,
hear what a client is saying and the client desperately wants me to say something and they get
mm,
impatient. I don't know if you've experienced this, but it's happened in the last 7 years of me doing this. And I remember one interaction I had, someone said, "Aren't you going to say anything?" And I was
oh,
like, "I'm just really taking in what you just said." And moments
Mm,
later, there were, like, tears, and there was this
mm,
desire to just, like, really feel what they were feeling, and there were
mm,
tissues, and that, like, iteration has happened time and time again when you give someone space to actually hear what they're saying, you know? But when we're so quick to be snappy
yeah,
like that, it
yeah.
doesn't give us time to really sit with the feeling, you know? But
Mm,
it's interesting that we're 2 therapists processing a book about how to know a person, because I feel
yeah.
like there's a reason why we get into this work, but I feel
Mhm,
like I'm continuously learning what it
mhm.
means to really know a person, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, like, with therapy, like, sometimes there's definitely, like, all the talks about, like, different techniques and intervention, and then, like, probably you also get, like, every month, like, Pisces sending trainings for you to do, like, a $700,
Oh
like,
my god.
training.
Can I tell you what trainings I've been doing?
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah, yeah.
spent so much. So in September, I'm taking a somatic training. It's like first level somatic training. But over the last several months, I've been getting trained in maternal mental health, like perinatal mental health. And
Mm,
I'm taking an advanced training this Friday at the time of this recording, July 27th. It's like it starts at 6 a.m. because it's an Eastern time. But
oh,
like as therapists, like I don't know if you experience this, but you can have the knowledge of being such an expert that you forget what it's like to actually be a client. Do you ex
mm, mm. I kind of get what you're going at, but can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, what I mean by that is, like, when you're not learning anything new, when you're not, uh,
Mm,
cognizant of being a beginner, sometimes when you listen to a client, you think you know what they're saying,
yeah,
but there's, like, a deeper meaning underneath the meaning. Like,
yeah,
an example of this is, like, let's say someone's complaining about their job. It's not
mhm,
really about the job, it's what they're struggling with in their
yeah,
relationship with their job, and
yeah,
like, why is it uncomfortable to sit in this struggle?
yeah.
Like, why does there need to be a solution? You know?
Why does it need to be a solution, right? Like, what are they actually fretting about? Like, what is this really about?
Correct.
And why are they not trying? Couldn't they do the thing that they say that it would help the most?
Yeah.
And a lot of times, like, there's a lot of times the clients, they already know, like, how to solve the situation at hand, but there's something that's blocking them from doing it, and then that's when we just like, wait, what's there? Like, what are we holding on to? Like, what's going on?
Mm,
Right? Sometimes it's not about jobs, sometimes it's about identity,
mm,
about like not wanting to fail again, or about like how might other people see me? How can I respect myself again? There's a lot of these things that goes in, and I was trying to say, like, with this book, like it reminds me that there are so many different interventions that we could use to try to go at it. But
mm,
deep down, like, it really is about like how to know a person.
mm,
And I think, like, as therapists, like, this book it was such a good reminder, and it also teaches me something, like, in terms of, like, the more specific things of that we do. Because sometimes I'm just like, "Oh, yeah, like, that is what we have been trying to do, or it is what we're taught, but I don't know why." And I think, like, he did such a good job of elaborating why.
mm,
But it also reminded me of, like, how I think that sometimes, like, there's quite a lot of things that's going on in the world in terms of suffering, and people saying that, like, we need more therapists and more there's more mental health assistance. And I think, like, what if it's a we lack community thing? Well, it's a lack, like, we lack knowing how to do relationship thing.
ooh,
And I think it was in the beginning. Let me see if I can find it. It was so
please.
that was the first thing that I highlighted with
Yes, I'm looking
from
at
this
my notes.
book. I wish I could find it.
Take your
Um,
time, it's okay.
yeah. Let's see.
Mm.
I did so many highlights. So then, like, right now, it's actually, like, harder to find things.
I love it.
I don't think I could actually find that line, oh, yeah, there we go. We found it. There we
Yes.
go. Okay.
Yes, read.
So so this is in the chapter, the epidemic of blindness. And
Mhm.
so, as paragraph wrote, starting around 2018, a plethora of books have been published tracing the catastrophic decline in social relationships across society. They have titles like Lost Connections, The Crisis of Connection, The Lonely Century. In different ways, they present us with the same baffling mystery. The thing we need most is relationship. The thing we seem to suck at most is relationship.
Mm.
And like that line is really stood out to me. It's like what he's basically talking about is how that this is the solution that we're seeking for is the thing that we don't know how to do the most.
Mm.
And so like sometimes I feel like that when people go to therapists, like they're trying to learn how to have a relationship in some ways, or they say they want to feel better. Um,
Yes.
but but actually, like it is by exposing themselves in a therapeutic relationship that they get to know, like, oh, like this is how to listen, like this is how to think about certain things and reflect, um, and how to be a better person to my friend and family.
I love what you just reflected on with like the loneliness epidemic, where I feel like as a society, we're so quick to highlight the problem, but
Mm-hmm.
we very rarely get to the heart of what's actually
Mm,
going on in the human condition. And what I love
mm,
about David Brooks's writing
mm,
is he simplifies it to the essence, which is we just need to get good at seeing people again. And
mm,
I think what your quote that you just highlighted reminds me of one of my favorite quotes from the book. It's where
mm.
he quotes Leo Tolstoy. I actually
Um,
have an outline of my favorite quotes, but
yeah, yeah.
one of the most commonest and most generally accepted delusions is that every man can be qualified in some particular way. They are said to be kind, wicked, stupid, energetic, apathetic, and so on. People are not like that. We may say of a man that he is more often kind than cruel, more often wise than stupid, more often energetic than apathetic, or vice versa, but it could never be true to say of one man that he is kind or wise, or of another that he is wicked or stupid. Yet we are always classifying mankind in this way, and it is wrong. And he directly quotes Leo Tolstoy. And I think that like the art of seeing people is knowing that everyone is like a piece of art. We all have dimensions. There's a dark,
Mm-hmm.
the light, similar to like the way that the camera is getting you, Jeannie. Like you have
Mm-hmm.
a shadow in the back, and like a light in the front.
Yeah, yeah. That quote, I highlighted it as well, and I think about it quite often. Actually, it's not conscious. It's not just like let me meditate on Tolstoy. No, like it's just driving, and then like maybe thinking about like certain things about me or certain things about people, and then like it just pops up as like people are off. Like it could be described as like people are more kind than often, or like this more often, and it's not just like we have these labels that define people.
Mm.
It's it's a very like initially I thought like, oh, I love this. Like I love like how this is a more nuanced way of looking at people. And then I thought like, is it is it really difficult like to not flatten people? Because we do seem to like to have qualifiers and like when somebody shows us a different dimension, we often say like, oh, this is your true side. Like they show them your true self. And it's one side of their self. But sometimes it's quite hard to do that. And so I was thinking like, is it really this difficult? And I think that maybe on the surface it looks difficult because you're holding two different thoughts and two contradictory thoughts at the same time. It's more like contradissonance, right? He is kind and he could be selfish, or
Mm.
she is very wise, but she could be foolish. Like these are things that are contradictory, and like how do you make sense of them? And I even like heard people say like, oh, you could only either be logical or emotional, which we know like after GPT, we
Not
know that
true.
like it's not true. Dialectical behavioral therapy, you are both a rational human being and you have emotions and you can balance them. But so I think like on the surface it looks kind of difficult, but then if you're able to do it, which just take a little bit step back and be able to think through like all the pieces and then come to terms with like the acceptance of it, it actually releases us from a lot more unnecessary anger and a lot of unnecessary resentment because
Mm.
you get to see a more complete narrative. And
Mm.
I think that like even though it looks like it's more difficult, it actually the payoff is like so much better.
Yeah. I I remember going to my maternal mental health training, and one
Mm,
of the things they talked about is how to talk to a child in an age appropriate way, how to communicate grief, how to communicate when a parent has made a mistake.
yeah.
And one of the things the child life specialist shared was like really look at the child and tell them, for example, you as a mom just blew up, right? Like, mommy made a mistake.
Mm,
I'm so sorry.
mm,
Mommy makes mistakes sometimes, but I will try my best to learn from my mistakes and communicate
mm,
them to you. You know, and I think that that's unfortunately, I don't think I heard that a lot as a child. I never heard my parent um, tell me that they were wrong. And now
we
as
got
an adult,
fruits maybe, but
we got fruits, we got sliced fruits, we got clothes, we got financial um,
yeah.
wellness if you have the privilege of that. But like,
Mhm,
it's like I think it can start as a child
mhm,
if you're willing to open a child's eyes to just the complexity of humanity. But, you know, going back to the theme of humility, like I'm still learning that lesson as an adult that like
mm,
people aren't a tabloid. People are not only one thing, and we're all
yeah.
capable of making mistakes, which is why, it's
Yeah.
important to forgive yourself and, you know,
Mhm.
to get self-forgiveness in others.
Yeah. If you can forgive yourself, it's easier to forgive others as well, seeing that they are like they are people of many faces, and that's not because they have different personality. It's just part of being human, human condition. But
Yeah.
what's it like for you to learn that in the prenatal training, like to talk to a child like that?
Um, it feels really healing for me
Mm,
as
mm,
someone who's like already an adult and, you know, should quote unquote figure things out. Um,
mm,
but it humbles me to know that there's so much left to learn. And like
yeah.
the simplicity of like knowing how to talk to a child is teaching me how to talk to myself and how to talk to other people. But I think I want to transition into the second question
Mm-hmm.
because what we're talking about is actually going into this.
Mm,
So in the book, one of the biggest themes is being an illuminator of people and a
yeah.
diminisher of people, right? And I this is going to get a little personal.
Mm-hmm.
Where in your life right now do you feel illuminated and
Mm-hmm.
where in your life do you feel diminished?
Mm, yeah. I saw this question. I'm like, I love these questions. By
Yeah.
Hmm. So one way, in one area is my colleague slash well colleague in the office slash friend Gianna. We both
Yes, we
know.
both know.
Yeah, we both know. Like shout out to Gianna. Like no, like it's been we have been developing a friendship that it's just been really 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 great.
Mm.
Um, she is also gonna become a therapist. But the reason why I said like I have friends, but like the one of the reasons why like this friendship makes me feel like quite illuminated. I think it's because she also goes through not only stuff, but she also takes the time to hear me talk about my inner world. And she's more curious instead of going into assumptions. Don't get me wrong, like we still make like a lot of jokes and it's not like all lovey dovey and like sentiment. Like it's like we roast each other. like it's it is also like
Yeah.
with a lot of like savage meme gif sending jokes. But in those ways, like I feel very seen. Like in like um like it was this is a funny one, but like we were talking about like our dating stories, and like at one point, and I was like I'm not a person that chases. Like I'm not chase. Like I don't chase people. Like I let them come to me, and we both went quiet for a little bit. And then she, knowing my history in the past few weeks, she was like, Jeannie, let's be honest. And then we just started cracking up. But actually, she was so seen at that moment. I feel very illuminated at that moment because, like, I'm kind of fooling myself and telling me that I'm behaving one way that's according to my values and who I want to be. But
Mm,
what actually goes in, that's not the case. And so, like, when we laughed about it, I actually felt like, oh, like, hey, like, I'm not alone in this. And I don't have to pretend to be one thing in front of me and in front of her. And we could just like look at it factually and be like, why do we do this? Like, no, like this is like dating is equal playing field. Like let's not try to have like a hunt and prey situation going on here.
Yeah. You were able to really open up and talk to her about your dating history, which is
Mhm.
an extremely vulnerable place to be in, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and she doesn't judge.
Mhm.
Um, we often talk about like, oh, is this a canon moment? Does this have to happen? Yeah,
Mm.
and it's been a very nice ride with this friendship, and I think like that's when like illuminators they do. Sometimes they are friends, and sometimes they're acquaintances. Like
Yeah.
the friend I mentioned to you before, like that one is an acquaintance, but you always would feel comfortable talking to them, and you don't feel judged, and you feel like that their attention
Mm.
is on you, and you don't quite doubt that they want to spend time getting to know you
Ye
because it seems like they enjoy it too.
yeah. Illuminators don't really have a time clock, you know,
Mm,
are the most important thing in the room. When have you felt diminished?
hmm. When have I felt diminished?
Or
Hmm,
where in your life do you feel diminished?
hmm. I did saw the question, and so I did thought about it. Didn't have one that readily came to my mind. But I think like maybe like one that's a little bit more recent. Um, uh, it's a little bit more personal. So it's with a friend, and we have been longtime friends
Mhm.
even before I came to the States. And so like it's been a long friendship, and they know since that I was young.
Mm.
Um, and we were talking about like just how after I became a therapist, I feel like there's a lot of changes that happen within, and I feel like becoming a therapist actually saved me because it helped me to discover a side of life and knowing people and how to be with people and how to be with myself like that I never knew existed before. I kind of thought that like this is how things should, but then I'm always coming across like in situations where I'm just like, I feel like such a fool. Like, and then when I went into school, I was like, wow, like this is actually everything that I believe like should be doing, and this is what's healing. We don't talk like normal people, like Helen. You notice, like when, for
Oh.
example, like when you talk to your client, you said like they're just like, "Are you gonna say something?" And you told her or you told them that I'm just taking in what you said. It,
Mhm.
for me, like when I heard that line, I was like, "Oof, like that is so healing."
Mm.
Even for me, not being the client, but then that's also not what people normally would say.
Mm.
So we don't talk like normal people. But bringing me back to the story is that a lot of my friends and my family, they did say that they saw changes within me. It's almost like an uncovering, maybe like pushing off some of the dirt and then the things that were buried underneath, and like I could finally come out to shine. And but this friend, I don't know how come, but this friend, like she was just like she said that she was very surprised to hear that I became a therapist. And the reason being, she thought that I was always very self-centered and yeah, very self-centered and more expressive than listening. And she thought that I would go into like more like superficial industries like fashion, those kind of stuff. Yeah. And I was definitely surprised because of like, I was like, I don't think I would actually ever tell people in their face that they're self-centered, like unless I'm trying to like call them out on something and have them reflect on something. And it was just like a passing comment that was made during dinner.
Mm. You do
So
that
like
in
I
a
was definitely surprised. I was very surprised. And I did thought about like, should I tell them? And I'm like, you know what? Like maybe at this point, like they're not in the capacity to receive that comment. So I decided like maybe eventually, but I don't need to fight for. I don't need to fight for it because I already know who I am. I don't have to fight for her to see me in a different way. And what's the point? Like I want her to see me in a different way on her own. Well, I don't want her to. I don't want to force this perspective on her.
Mm.
But I think that maybe she held on to a version of me that was in pain and like from like 10 years ago.
Mm.
Or maybe like she sees people that she doesn't like and the shadow of that in me. Um, I'm more of I definitely more in tune with emotions and in tune like with my sensitivity. And I think maybe she has seen the dark side of that in people in her life, I guess, as we talked about. So maybe that's why at that moment she wasn't seeing me, but she was seeing someone else.
Mm.
Transference. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that one was I definitely Definitely, I felt a little bit of the sad, and I'm like, "Oh, dang, like, we're friends." Yeah.
When I first met my husband, we
Mm,
had our first date, and he wasn't really, um when you're on a date with someone, they're really big about bragging about themselves. He wasn't like that at all. He just, was sitting back, and he was just observing how I treated people, how I treated others. He was asking me
mm,
about my relationship with my mom, and every date we had gone on thereafter, there was always a lot of questions.
oof.
And I still feel really seen in my marriage, because
Mm,
every day, I'll be done with work, he'll come home from work, and we'll just talk about our day, and it feels like a safe place to just be myself, you know?
mm.
So
It's like, they highlight 2 experiences. The one that for you, like, diminishes is when they come in with assumptions and they come in with an a an image of who they think you are, and not only just holding it as an image, because we all come in with kind of like assumptions that some of us, we hold it lightly, and then we try to have a challenge or being open, and sometimes, like, we run with it. And it seems like for you, like, when you feel diminished, it's a lot of times it's like they run with that image of you, and no matter what you say out of your mouth, or like you just met them, like, they would still run with it. And whereas with your husband, he almost takes like a unassuming step back. Like, I could even imagine, like, him sitting a little bit more back, like, just in the state of receiving,
mm,
and just receiving whoever you are presented to him. And
mm,
it's kind of like a there's this chapter, I think, about wisdom, and it says that, for I think David Brooks, along the lines of, like, wisdom is knowing, like, who a person truly are. And
mm,
in my head, like, I would add on, it's knowing who a person truly are, not what you want them to be, and
mm,
not what they want you to think who they are.
mm,
And so, like, that takes a lot of time, but also takes a lot of, like, acceptance of, like, whatever that's coming up in front of me, then I will see it, I will observe, and I will receive it.
mm. Do
Mm.
you remember that line? I think it was in the first chapter where he talks about his wife and the light.
Mm. Yes, so
Really?
I love that. What was that word? I keep forgetting that word that you use.
He was like,
Beholding.
I was just holding the image,
Yeah,
and he was like, "I really" beholding.
yeah,
He was
yeah,
like, "I really knew her
yeah,
in that moment." Essentially, for
yeah.
the reader who's never read the
Mm,
book, what happens is he sees a silhouette of his wife. He turns around,
mm,
he sees her, and the light's just hitting her face
mm.
at the right moment. Do you have the page, Jeannie?
I'm trying to find it. Keep
Yeah.
reading. Okay.
And as he's looking at her, he has this epiphany. He goes, "Oh, I really know this person. Like, I really know my wife." And for those that don't know David Brooks, he used to be married, divorced, and then if you read his book, The Second Mountain, that's how he meets his second wife and he writes about it. But you have the quote.
Yes, I found it. So, thank you for setting the scene, because, like, that's exactly it. And it's, like, as beautiful as, like, you were describing it. It's the door was open, the late afternoon light was streaming in around her. Her
Mm,
mind was elsewhere, but her gaze was resting on a white orchid that we kept in a pot on the table by the door. I paused and looked at her with a special attention, and had a strange and wonderful awareness ripple across my mind. I know her, I thought. I really know her through and through. If you had asked me what it was exactly that I knew about her in that moment, I would have had trouble answering. It wasn't any collection of facts about her or her life story, or even something expressible in the words I would use to describe her to a stranger. It was the whole flowing of her being, the incandescence of her smile, the undercurrent of her insecurities, the rare flashes of fierceness, the vibrancy of her spirit. It was the lifts and harmonious harmonies of her music. I wasn't seeing pieces of her or having specific memories. What I saw or felt I saw was the wholeness of her, how her consciousness creates her reality. That's what happens when you've been with someone for a while, endured and delighted together, and slowly grow an intuitive sense for how that person feels and responds. Yeah. Oh, can I continue with this
yeah.
final line? Because this is a really nice one. It might even be accurate to say that for a magical moment, I wasn't seeing her. I was seeing out from her. perhaps to really know another person, you have to have a glimmer of how they experience the world. To really know someone, you have to know how they know you. Oof.
That's so good. That was only the first chapter.
Mhm. Yep, that was only on page 17. Yeah.
Really know someone, you really have to know how they know you.
Mm,
What do you
how
think
they
that
see the
line
world.
meant?
That line, I think he he's talking about like how we all go through life seeing things in different ways,
Mm,
and we interpret things differently too.
mm,
Like you see an apple, somebody might think about Twilight.
yes.
Somebody might think about like I'm hungry. Some people would like, oh, these are good carbs. And then maybe for another person, like this is the apple of Eden. Like they all mean something, even though they are the same apple. And like I think that when he's talking about like knowing someone, you have to know out of them. So it's like not only being in their shoes, because we're not only stepping in somebody else's shoes, we step in their shoes as if we're them. We feel what their skin is like. We feel what is it like to be them in these clothes and seeing things and coloring each of our observation with our past experience and memories.
Mm,
And when they know us, when I know you, Helen, it's through my own experiences as well. And it's through my own understanding and sometimes limited understanding. But that's how we we do things in life. And so like if you're to get to know me and to see like things through my eyes, it's also like, oh, like this is how Jeannie constructs the world. This is how she sees relationships. These are her assumptions. These are her um like maybe changes within her convictions and beliefs. And if you know that, it would be easier to know like how I see you as well.
mm.
Which is a lot of what happens in couples therapy actually.
Yeah, tell me about what's been illuminating for you as a
Mm.
couples therapist. Because when we first met, you were an individual therapist,
Yeah.
mostly with teens, right? And young
Teens
adults?
and adults. Yeah.
Yeah, and now, like, what's it been like transitioning into couples therapy?
Ironically, so when I decided to be a therapist, like I was just like, I'm not gonna be a couples therapist. Because at that point, like I haven't actually had my first relationship. And I was also like really I think I had a lot of reservations about being a couples therapist without ever being in a healthy long-term relationship. I'm like, how am I
Mhm.
supposed to know like how this works? And people often say like with therapy, like you just need empathy, which I mean, yes, kind of, but empathy is limited by how much I know the emotional landscape.
Correct.
And there are things that I will just never know if I've never been in it. And I still maintain that I know that like this is not exactly a very marketing friendly message to be to be a therapist, but I do still really believe in that.
Mm.
So like was I decided not to be to go into an MFT program because I want to be an individual therapist, and maybe eventually I would go into couples work if I ever went into a healthy long term relationship, and I did.
Mm.
And I did. Like that relationship has taught me so many things, like communication, like what does good communication look like, and what is it like to well, like, no, not even compromise. What is it like to not be selfish when you're with another person? It's like, what is it like that you have your needs, but then they also have their needs, and then you see that like, oh, like your needs are not the only thing on the table.
Yeah.
Like that is definitely an art form. I would say, like taking that step back, and so like being as a couple therapist now, transitioning to that, like I love this work. I love being a couples therapist. I actually did not even know that I would enjoy it so much. It just lights me up.
What
And
lights you
every single time. Sorry.
what lights you up about it?
I think that it is when we have two individuals coming in, they want to be in a relationship with each other, but they struggle so much of like, why do you see things this way? Why are you crazy? And why can't you just do it my way? And like we would get couples like who's trying to let the other person see it their way for the past 3 years and with the same method and strategy as over and over again. And then they keep expecting a different result.
Mm.
And I think like that sometimes like it's those moments where we kind of slow down and I ask like the couple to like bring up more and more and more. And sometimes if there's something that shifts like for the other partner, it's like, I never knew about this. You never told me about this. Yeah. Um,
I was like
or
I
yeah,
I'm reflecting on my first year of marriage and how, like, a lot of my first year of being married was about, like, "Why can't you just do it the way I do
yeah,
it?"
yeah. It's like my way makes sense. Like, why don't you just do it? Like, this is the most efficient way to do it.
Yeah, but I love that insight because I never put words to it in the same way that
Mhm,
you've put words into it, Jeannie, of, like,
mhm,
rather than judging the assumption,
mhm.
you take the time to unpack. Like, it's kinda like, those magicians with all those tissue papers? They're
Yes,
just, like,
you keep pulling them.
everything, you know? You're kinda
Yeah.
doing it like that, which I never thought of it that way. That's beautiful.
Thanks. And I actually do see it the same way too. Like I joke like it's fish or rabbits, like just keep pulling out like there are more and more rabbits. It's like
Yeah,
it's like a string of rabbits.
yeah, because we all have layers of stories, you know? I
Yeah.
One of the things I actually put a note on not to talk about again was my immigration story because I was like, "Yeah, like, that's important." But I
Mhm,
feel like I've talked about it so much that
mhm,
there's different aspects of my identity that I wanna show up with you. I wanna show up vulnerable, and I just wanna share my gratitude to you, Jeannie, of you're being so vulnerable right now, and, like, I'm so grateful for you as a friend and as someone
mhm.
that's known you all these years to, like, get to see you evolve. We should do more of these, like,
Yeah.
book club co-hosts because I feel like I'm getting to know you better, but, like, an excuse to hang out, but it's
No, thank you, Helen. Thank you for bringing this space too. And because like
thank you.
it's for a person to feel comfortable to be vulnerable, like it also is you also have to have that space that
Mm,
you know that you're not gonna be judged. And like sometimes like for the listeners who watch the video, like sometimes like when I say certain things, like Helen has like these micro expression of just like, oh, like taking it in or like being in awe. And like and you're probably not doing it like intentionally. Like that was just your like authentic reaction. But like it also like for me, like how it landed was like, oh, like she enjoyed the story or she sees value in what I just said.
wow.
So then you actually, I think like the listener, and I found out like being the listener and being listened to, like that we have the power to stop a person from saying things like just by not giving
Yeah.
any yeah reaction, or we just go like, oh wow, that's crazy. Like I have clients that tell me like they hated that the most. Like they hated when they would say something and somebody else would just go like, oh wow, that's crazy. Like what do you want for lunch? And it's like it's just so dismissive, like without being actually dismissive. And so like even like just us like nodding or expressing a certain emotion on our face, like that could
Right.
result in encouraging someone or stopping them.
Yeah, I love what you said because I'm reflecting on the practice of being a good listener and how much of a it's I don't know if you see it this way, but I kind of see it like a sport. Like
Mm,
if I don't rest, if I don't have a ritual, I won't be able to show up in the same way, you know? Do you have like a listening ritual?
listening ritual. During the days where I have a lot of clients, I don't drink caffeine.
Yeah, me
So
too.
right?
Yeah.
So I discovered that I'm actually quite sensitive to caffeine and it raises my heart rate. And so then it makes me become more alert, but also more anxious because the body, like our body interpret like any signs of alertness.
Yeah.
It could be like, oh, concentrate, or it could be like, hey, this is like anxiety inducing. And when my heart beats really fast, it is anxiety inducing.
Mm.
And so like I know that when I my anxiety is up, it's harder for me to listen because I would be jumping to try to save the conversation with discomfort, or I would be having a hard time listening. So if for session for days with like maybe like 3 or more sessions, I don't drink caffeine. We drink like very, very little. And then at night, I found the best way for me to decompress is playing Sims 4.
Ooh, Sims 4.
Have I told you about this before?
You've never, but I love The Sim, but I haven't played in years.
Yeah, I just rediscovered it, I think 2 years ago when I went to work in residential.
Oh, yeah.
And that was when I discovered, like, this game helps me decompress so much because 'cause I'm just completely in another person's world. Like,
Because
I'm
you
in my
go
Simmers.
You would go into the office, right? Every day?
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
that
every
makes
day going to the office, yeah, and so, like, coming back home, like, I just wanna shut my brain down, like, I
yeah.
just want to be, like, doing like, thinking about, like, "Okay, like, how do I make sure that my little Sim is gonna be fed and sleeping and meeting their aspirational goals?" Like, "Hey, like, are we gonna go to Magic Era today?"
That's awesome.
It is so fun. Yeah, but, like, that definitely helps me to put aside the things that we have listened to during the day and maybe have more distance from it, not take it too hard as much because I do take it too hard. Like, I don't shake it off, like, as easily. If I feel a lot during a session, I will continue to feel something about it.
Yeah.
I can't just, like, go like, "Oh, like, oh, that was a heavy session." And then I just go straight into oh, like life goes on as usual. I mean, yeah, like I was still going with my life. I was still go drive and stuff, but like I will feel those things. Um, and I think that our effectiveness as a therapist also depends on being affected by other people. Yeah,
Mm.
I often was asked by friends, especially from Hong Kong, like, how do you make sure you're not affected by the clients? Because they would be sharing like what we call like negative energy. So like, how do you make sure you're not affected? And I'm like, you have to be affected. Like, you have
Yes.
to be affected. And like my effectiveness as a therapist depends on me being open to be influenced.
Yes. Mhm.
And that is because that's also part of attunement. If I'm not affected, then how am I being attuned to them? How am I talking at them instead of listening to them and help them process whatever that's coming to them? I will be affected and I'm okay with it. That is part of what I sign up for. And I like it. I like feeling like that there's a connection there. I like being able to feel their emotions and letting them know that, hey, they're not alone in feeling their emotions. I'm with them.
Mhm.
Um, so like there are ways for me to decompress and there are definitely ways for me to not have that get in like the process of me continuing to live and continue my duties and responsibilities and leisure. But I think like in order to be a person that could really help someone or to know them, like you have to be open to feel their pain and feel the impact of their words.
Yeah.
Seems like you also have some similar thoughts.
Oh, yeah. I tell clients all the time, like, I learn just as much from you as you learn from me. Like, I feel like I've been able to live hundreds of lives just being
Yes.
able to be a therapist. But I truly agree with you 100% that if you don't allow yourself to be impacted by the client, you yourself can't make an impact because it's sort of like acting. Like, how can you react if you're callous to the other person's performance, you know?
Yes.
And David Brooks talks about this of in order to really build empathy, he recommends that people go into improv or some sort
Mhm.
of thing to like be in the shoes of someone else. And therapy is all about how do I put myself like fully submerged in your story so that I can receive and I can help you, you know?
Mm.
But my ritual is very ritual, I like to say. Um, so let's say if I have a session starting at 10, I like to wake up at 7 and then I read my Bible,
Mm.
pray, I journal. But like the purpose of me reading my Bible is that I submerge myself in like the story of Moses, for example.
Mm.
And what I love about the biblical text, and this is not to like preach at anyone, it's just my personal story. It's like what I love about biblical text is that people in the Bible like really talk about their mistakes and the consequences of their mistakes. Like right now, I'm learning about how Moses took credit for God's miracle and he wasn't allowed to enter into the promised land and the impact that that's had, or how God says to the Israeli people, I have good things for you. But
Mhm.
they go to the promised land, they sneak into the promised land, and they make assumptions about the people that live there of like, how are we going to conquer it? How are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? And through the biblical text, I'm learning like there's a difference between having faith and
Mhm.
operating out of your own sense of worth and worthiness because you only mindset. And so reading the Bible gives me a sense of humility before I go into a session of like, I don't have it all together.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know if you've ever read, the book The Sabbath by Abraham Herschel. He's like a
Mm-mm,
Jewish rabbi who talks about the importance of rest, but he has a
mm,
really interesting theory on time. He says that as humans, we're meant to inhabit time. We're not supposed to be efficient of time. We're not supposed to be productive of time. We're not supposed to make the
mm,
most of time. As humans, we inhabit time. And
mm,
men are tempted to control their environment and to be God. And so one day
mhm.
I tried to take Friday night sundown to Saturday sundown, similar to like Shabbat,
Yeah, yeah,
Jewish
yeah.
culture. I've really gotten so much benefit from it because I notice that
Mm,
if I don't rest or if I overwork
mm,
myself, there are patterns of like arguments with my husband on Sabbath. I like
mhm,
I'm more irritable. I resent rest. And so like really being intentional about rest.
yeah,
And then I try to go on a walk every evening,
mm,
just to like think through my day. I like to say like at the end of every day, I reflect on my clients. I try to see how I could have been better.
mhm.
And then I watch a little bit of Gilmore Girls or like Modern
Oh,
Family.
wait. Oh, I love Gilmore Girls. It is I love Gilmore Girls. Yeah, it is such a feel-good show, but not like a not just feel good, but the characters.
So well written. Yeah. I oh, are you there, Jeannie? I think Jeannie froze.
Yeah, no. I was thinking about so Gilmore Girls, like it was a lot of the characters, like you being able to submerge into like everybody's lives, and I think there's something about like being in an ensemble ensemble set where it's not just one person's story that you're following; it's multiple people, and it actually it. Hmm?
Oh,
Oh,
is everything okay?
oh, sorry. Sorry. It was just a screen that you
Sorry.
don't have to cut that out.
Yeah,
The screen, like I felt like I got kicked out.
it's
No,
okay.
but like that, you get to immerse yourself into like a bigger environment, and that's kind of like what I thought about when you mentioned your ritual. Like when you read the Bible and it's reading the story of Moses, like that's a big ensemble. Like it's not just Moses. There was a lot of different characters in it too. Like obviously God being one of them.
Yeah.
And what I love about like in some ways like faith is that it constantly reminds us that there's something that's bigger than us.
Mm,
But that's very comforting too, like to know that like, oh, like I'm a speck of dust and what I do might be less consequential than I think it would
right.
be. Like yes, like there will be consequences to our actions. Like you pick up something, then the thing is going to be lifted up. That is natural. But like to also understand that our mistakes are not always as big as we think they are, or maybe we completely minimize them and they actually need to take effect in our mind to cause growth. But overall, like reading the Bible in the morning, like has that effect for me as well. Like just a reminder, like being in that mind space of it's not entirely about me. And I think like that's one of the big things, like not only being about not only for therapists, because in school we constantly talk about like this is not about you. This is not about you. Are you apologizing because you feel guilty and are you doing this like because you want certain things? You want to get your needs met for the client.
Mm,
We have to ask these questions. But I think even like outside of being a therapist, like being able to remind yourself like it's not about you. It's not about you. It's actually a really freeing place to
Mm.
be when we socialize with other people. And so like when you talk about rest, I was like, oh, that's such a beautiful practice. Like, and you notice like what a lack of rest would do to you too.
Yeah.
And then you actually try to make space for it.
Yeah, and rest reminds me that the world goes on without me too.
Mm.
Like,
Mm.
I think one of the things that I myself am tempted by as a person is thinking that everything is up to me, especially as a
Mm.
new private practice owner, etc.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I fall into the temptation that like I'm important, and
If I
there's
don't do it, then it will fall apart and nobody will
yeah,
do it.
exactly. And there's a difference between self-importance and self-esteem. Like
Mhm.
I think
Yes.
I have good self-esteem, I'd like to think.
Mhm.
But I to practicing the Sabbath, turning off my phone once a week, etc.
Mm.
It's just an opportunity to know that I'm not God, and
Mm.
off the God complex almost and the tension of that. Um,
That therapists are very easy to have.
you think so? I think
Yeah, I think so. I think it's really easy to have, like, in the room, like, you're like, everything you said is being held with, like, such reverence.
mm,
People tell you, like, "Oh, like, you're so helpful." Like, it's a little bit like being a pastor and teacher. It's very easy to develop a God complex.
mhm.
Um, but I also think that, like, in modern life, it's quite hard to remember that you're part of something big.
Yes.
I was out in the deck, like, trying to do this thing, of not being with myself for, like, at least 30 minutes. And I was out in the deck just watching the stars, eating my In-N-Out burger,
Yeah,
and savoring that really, really nice burger and the stars.
mm,
And I was like, "Wow, like, this is how people lived, like, back then, when they don't have." I mean, and
mm.
speaking of Moses, like, when they were trying to go out, like, they were definitely camping in the desert
Oh,
and looking
yeah.
out to the stars.
Mm,
And I was like, wow, like it's so easy to remember that you are part of something big. Like I think of my grandma, she's a farmer,
mm,
and her efforts is always up to the whims of the season.
mm,
She could do everything that she could, but maybe it just decides to rain like a little bit more, or maybe there's more sun, or maybe less sun this season. Those things are completely out of her control, and she, as a farmer, will have to get along with it, just as other farmers do.
yeah.
Um, and it's just kind of built in their lifestyle and built in their understanding. But for us, like modern people, because everything could be optimized, the screen's brightness can be optimized. Like my phone wallpaper and everything is customizable. So then there's almost this illusion that we are in the control of a lot of things, but that also becomes a burden. That like if I could control so many things, like why aren't I more da 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 already?
Mm. Yeah, the temptation to think that we should have it all figured out when so much more to this world than what we can figure
Mm.
out.
Then what we just figure out.
Yeah, I love the part about the farmer analogy. Like I had no idea
Mm.
your grandmother was a farmer,
Yeah. Right.
but like so many analogies about work in the Bible are about seeing work as like
Mm.
a piece of land that you're tending to or a flock that you're
Mm.
tending to. Like everything has a season. And so I'm
Mm.
trying to reframe my mind to
Mm.
see it that way. Like
Mm.
having private practice, by the way, one of the things I'm learning is that summers is are quieter than
Yes.
most of the year, right?
Yeah, they're out, everybody's out.
Yeah, and that's gonna affect income, but that's
Mhm.
okay. Like you
Mhm.
gather in spring, you
Yes.
like kind of relax in summer, and then you try to
Yeah.
harvest in the fall and you do what you need to do. Um, in my first year, I feel like I'm still learning a lot of that, but
Mhm.
thank you, Jeannie. That's beautiful. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that with me too. Yeah, like with private practice, like I haven't gone into private practice, but I definitely have heard. And like even this year, like with like economies changing, like and um like just like how things are in general right now. So then we are seeing a slower a crowd for different practices as well. And I see it not just like with my site, it's like with different sites as well.
Yeah. It's true. I love
Mhm.
that. It's also encouraging me to know what's happening in the world as well. But,
Mm,
one more question for you.
mm,
What's one thing you're taking from tonight? Because I wanna leave you with the rest of the evening for yourself
mhm,
about the book or about
mm.
one of the things that we shared today.
Yeah, I think, like I mean, I definitely actually want to think more now about a ritual, like a listening ritual or, like, just a ritual to have me, like, being more in tune with the
Mm,
environment and how, like and with how when I say how things are, I'm not just talking about, like, the material sense, like, how, like, seasons work, um, what are some, like, natural laws that govern it, just being more in tune with that so then, like, I feel a little bit more peace
yeah.
since I am prone to more anxiety. But then I'm also thinking about, like, just paying more attention to who are some illuminators, like, in my life and in other people's life. Mm. I think, like, when you ask that question, they are. Why am I blanking on them? And that sounds like, no, like, they exist. Like, yes, like, we are trying to have more illuminators in the world, and I think a lot of people, they do want to become illuminators, we just don't know how, or we think that it's out of reach, but there are people like that, and so I'm just like, I want to pay more attention and see, like, if those people like, where are these people?
Mm,
And to be grateful for them to be there and hopefully, like, I could pass on that fire, like, keep on reminding myself, like, "Okay, like, be an illuminator."
mm. That's beautiful. There's
What about you?
there's one thing you said today that,
Mm,
um, I really loved. I wrote it down. You say we all go through life seeing things in different ways. And,
yeah.
like, what I loved about that statement is it just reminded me that there's more to know about other people. Like, and then I really loved your stories about Gianna because, like, Gianna is also a mutual friend.
Yeah.
And I loved how you took us through your relationship and your career and
Mm,
how it was all an unexpected journey, how you became a couples therapist.
mhm,
But,
yeah,
like, the tissue analogy of, like, always having more to unravel is
yeah.
such a helpful tip for anyone that's married. Like,
Mm,
yeah, as someone who doesn't feel like she has, um I don't have a perfect marriage, but
nobody does.
nobody does,
Nobody
and
does.
that's, like, a therapist insight. No one has a perfect relationship no
Yeah.
matter how hard people are trying to make it seem, but
Mm,
just the example that you set, Jeannie, of try to see where the other person is coming from. Like, just because you think you know doesn't mean
mhm,
you really know, you know?
yeah, yeah.
I'll share something with you as we end, but yesterday I got into an argument with my husband about a smoothie. So, like,
Mhm,
I was making a smoothie, we had no more fruits left. We had an avocado, 2 bananas, some almond milk, some peanut butter, and it tasted really bad. Like, I tasted it, I was like, "There's no flavor," and he was like, "You should put honey," so I put honey.
right.
Still really bad, and he wanted to save it. So, our backgrounds are
Okay.
different. I grew up in an Asian home, right, and he grew
Mhm,
up in a white family, but a poor white family.
mm,
I was so mad, I was like, "How can you put that in your body? Like, it's gonna go bad with it. I wanna save it." And he was like, "I'll just buy more fruit later today, and I'll, like,
mhm,
remake the smoothie. Just let me have
mhm,
this." And
okay.
we got into an argument, and I was like, "I'm so tired of, like, having to protect you from yourself, blah, blah, blah."
You're gonna die, like, from this, like, contagious, like, do you have any sense of, like, immune system?
And, he gave me a hug later that day because I was still mad. But we resumed the conversation later that day, and he
Yeah,
was like, "I know that we both grew up in different families. Like, your
mm,
family has a very different view of money. My family has a very different view of money. But now that
yeah,
we're married, we get to decide together what money means. And, like, we get to create our own standards." And he's like, "The smoothie, like, I can throw it away." But essentially, he sought guidance from one of the elders at our church, just, like, told them the situation, and the elders
mhm,
gave him advice about that. And I'm
mhm,
just really grateful. But, like, in that situation, yes,
yeah,
I'm the therapist, but, like, he was the one that initiated the
Mm,
unraveling, if you know what
mm,
I mean,
the unraveling.
yeah, like, sometimes you really have to see the nakedness of a person, like, truly, to
Yeah.
get to know them, and, like, yeah, it's like, let's take off the ego persona,
Mhm,
but
mhm,
I'm really
yeah.
grateful for that, Jeannie, that's what I'm taking away.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for sharing that. And like when you share that story, like, when you said unraveling, are you talking like about yes, like our ego part, like as the therapist, but then like he is also like coming in like with a lot of love and a lot of like initiative to the pair. But are you also talking about like him trying to dig deeper that like hey like this is not just about this movie, like this is about different values and different histories, and hey like I know that like this is quite frustrating for you,
Mhm,
but we could decide together what are the new standards and new values that we could have.
mhm,
And like telling you that like I don't need to stick to my old customs.
mhm.
And so as like you don't also don't need to stick with your old customs. Like we could try to come up with something that's completely ours.
Yeah, like, when I was saying unraveling, I meant he saw through my anger.
Mm,
He was able to see what it was
mm,
really about. And, one of the things that he told me is, "We don't have to pick one belief or the other. We can
mm,
create our own as a family,"
mm,
you know? And I really appreciate that insight because in my head, right, he was able to take what was in my head and he was able to go, "Oh, this is what she's doing. She's, like, comparing my upbringing,
yeah.
her upbringing, and she's just trying to tell me, like, I'm right," you know?
Right, right, right.
And he was able to, like, really dumb it down to the core issue, and I think that's really what it's like to see someone, to, like,
Mm,
really unravel. It's kinda like a pistachio, you have to, like, peel it open to get to
yeah.
the juice, you know?
Yeah. Wow, that's a lot of work on his end. Like, and not I'm not saying labor, not that kind of work, but as in like that went through like several layers of
Mhm.
iteration of reflection of like, why is Helen angry? Why are we arguing? And to like, is she actually angry? Like, what is this actually about? And then that's how he landed on like the differences, and then like how and like, do we have to be resentful with each other about differences, or we could actually make our own thing?
Yeah, yeah. Wait, I'm grateful. It was
Thank you
reflect
for sharing that. Thank
Yeah,
you for sharing that, Helen. And I really appreciate that you would share this story because I don't see you trying to hold on to like, oh, like I'm the therapist, so like I'm always gonna be presenting in this way.
mm,
No, like we're also human beings and we're in relationship with human beings, and part of I think like the joy of having maybe the language to describe it is that you could articulate like, oh, like this is what me and my husband went through, and I am so glad that I had that experience.
yes. We all, um we all learn a lot from relationships, and being a therapist doesn't make us immune, you know?
Mm-mm. No,
Mm.
no, it does not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeannie. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Helen.